That's right. You're watching and listening to still the Arsenal Review USA podcast. It's the podcast for the American Gooner in association with Arsenal America. You can find more about us, though, on arsenalreviewusa.com. Lots to talk about. Two, I wouldn't say typical Arsenal results, typical of Arsenal this season, but they were, they were frustrating results, both in their own way. Which one was more? We're starting with a negative already. That's how we always start. But which one was more frustrating for you, Kyle? The conceding a loss to Man U or the shooting of the foot against Atletico? Just real quick, one or the other.
Yeah, I think
A or B.
Well, I guess A.
And immediately, Kyle is just Kyle.
Well, A in terms of when the games happened, but you said Atletico as B, so I go with B.
Oh,
more disappointing.
Yeah, Atletico. Yeah, definitely more disappointing. I'd say both disappointing. It was made up for, I think, with the Man U. Disappointment was curbed on the Man U result, just because it was all worth it to see Jose Mourinho try to act like a grown up and feel very uncomfortable doing so.
Right.
Forced to do it from the get go there with the handing off of the urn or the vase or whatever they gave. Whatever they gave Arsene Wenger at the beginning. It clearly, Ferguson obviously was the one driving that. But
it reminded me of the many movies you see where the struggling son, and the absentee father reunite, and the absentee father and the son aren't quite ready to give out like the full out hug, really bro it up.
Right.
But there is some sort of embrace at a distance, like grabbing each other's shoulder, or
like the awkward, like
exactly, the side hug. And you're approaching side hug territory, with what we saw between those two.
To me, it was more like when you do something wrong, or you have like a tiff with some other kid your age, when you're very young, because Jose Mourinho mentally, tactfully is very young, maybe like 5 or 6 years old. So when you have this falling out with some other little kid, but then your mom or your dad makes you go like have to do something, maybe a sibling, go like say
make him a card or something,
make him a card, give him his birthday present, whatever, and you're just you can't. It's like passing a kidney stone to try to do it. Like that's what it. He was smiling, Jose Mourinho, but he could have been passing a kidney stone. That's how much it hurts him to do something classy. But it was worth it. It was worth it to see it to happen. Not worth it to see the result in the end. Arsenal obviously lost 2-1 to Man U, considering of all things a Fellaini goal. But we'll talk about that in a second. Atletico was the first and the bigger result, or the bigger game earlier in the week. Didn't end up so great after it started so well. Where's that ref from? Excuse me. Do you remember? I want to say he's Russian. I could be way off on that. Not that it matters, I'm not about to racially profile anybody.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Most corrupt officials are Russian. Is that what you're gonna say?
No. And I guess the Russians in being Russian in and of itself is not a race, but I know what you mean.
You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, slippery slope.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, very harsh on whatever his name was that he sent off. I thought, first of all, I mean, you could say everything you want about it being technically 2 yellow cards in a row. I don't know which one was more of a yellow card, but certainly you don't see that usually happen. There's a little bit of a grace period. We've always bemoaned the grace period that players get sometimes.
Yeah.
I just thought it was, I don't know, it was super pedantic. It was, I don't want to say it was as bad, but it was the equivalent of being overly technical, almost, to when Robin van Persie was sent off for taking a shot like milliseconds after the whistle had blown. So I can understand where, especially of all people, Simeone was very aggrieved.
I look at it this way. Obviously, it benefited Arsenal, or actually didn't really. I would have hoped it would have benefited Arsenal, but the fact of the matter is that again, I don't remember his name either, but
they all look the same, don't they?
Yeah,
they all look like assassins from a Bond movie, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, he picks up a card with the 6th or 7th minute. So clearly, the referee is establishing that he's going to be calling a tight game. That most chippy, hard fouls that where you miss
Yeah.
the ball and land, firmly on someone's foot like that, or whatever late challenges are going to be considered yellows. And so, sure, was it a bit early in an important tie like that to be giving 2 consecutive yellow cards to the same player and sending him off at the 12th minute? Sure, but if that's going to be a foul in the first minute and worthy of a yellow card, then it needs to be the same punishment for that sort of foul throughout the entirety of the 90 minutes. I've never really understood the fact that a referee would let something, certainly one of the 2 fouls was egregious enough for a yellow card. Maybe not both, but certainly one of the 2. I've never understood this idea that referees have to let things go for the first 30 minutes of a match and then can finally start handing out yellow cards in terms of, ruining something, or the flow of play, or the event in itself would be ruined somehow by sending someone off. I mean, if someone deserves to be sent off, they should be sent off. Now, I agree with you with the Robin Van Persie type scenario. Doesn't hear the whistle, 90,000 fans or whatever it was screaming at him. Something that's very petty. Basically, we talk about the referees getting their feelings hurt, or their pride is somehow damaged by this player not listening to the whistle and shooting when he should have just pulled up and given the ball to the other team for the free kick, whatever the situation may be. Those sorts of scenarios are obviously much more maddening in relation to sending someone off for a second yellow than an actual bookable offense, which is, right. I think we saw 2 of from that player from Atletico in that 12-minute span. So I think the unfortunate fact of the matter is, that we weren't talking more about the red card that essentially, handed Arsenal the tie in and of itself. I mean, to have a 78 minutes of a semifinal at home in front of your own fans, a man up, and to leave and go into the next leg, on your back foot, essentially, not necessarily out of it. I know if we win the match, we'll go through. But I have to disagree with the people saying that we haven't dug ourselves a hole. We just have to go and win. Yeah, exactly. You have to go and win at a place where they've, I think conceded like 7 goals all year. And so, they're probably going to sit back a little bit, not like you see from other teams like a Mourinho side or something like that. But, to score goals in Madrid here in a couple days' time is going to be no easy task. And we have to do that to obviously win the game.
Okay. Well, you keep dipping out of bandwidth for whatever reason. I know you stopped talking. Yeah, you keep dipping in bandwidth, but it gives us all pause for thought on reflection on what you said. And you're right. I just have to wonder aloud, is this like the worst? Is this the worst center back season ever for Arsenal? I can't remember center back pairings. Not that these 2 center backs these individuals are terrible in of themselves, although the debate's still out, or the jury's still out for Mustafi. But I think together, where the form of the center backs that Arsenal has at their disposal is, I would say, or posit that maybe it is the worst center back season ever, because at good times we've got 2 center backs firing on all cylinders. at the height of their game. You remember Koscielny and Mertesacker kind of came together at a good time. You remember it was Campbell and Laurent, sorry, wow, right back. Campbell and Torre, and then you had Adams and Bold, and I'm trying to think of all the other permutations you had in there. Keown for a hot sec. You had a lot of good center back pairings, but at the least you had one center back at the top of his game. At least at once, and it doesn't seem to be the case this season. That seems to be the exception. Usually it's Koscielny who's playing well, or it's Mertesacker who's kind of playing well in his own way, in the absence of Koscielny or whatever. And this season, it's just been such a bad such a sore spot or such an Achilles heel for Arsenal. All the defense has pretty much, but especially in that center back situation or position, you've seen it time and time again where they failed to organize and failed to really be like the rock at the back. And never was that more apparent than on that goal against Atletico, where both of them really made a hash of it. Koscielny clearly made a hash of it. What did he kick it back into his own head? And then Mustafi, who probably should have been more active in covering. You know, you always assume the worst in defense. That's what makes you a good defender, is when you cover people, kind of anticipating an error or a bad play or whatever. Probably should have been anticipating that play better. And then as he struggled to get back, he really was odds-on favorite to just smother Griezmann as he, you know, took what was at the time going to be kind of like a simultaneous coming together. Griezmann about to hit the ball, Mustafi coming in to block it at a very narrow angle, and then he just slips for no reason. It's not like he had to like readjust or anything. He just banana peel, slips, turf monster. And yeah, I mean, it's you almost wouldn't expect anything less, though, is what I'm trying to say here in a very roundabout way from our center backs this season.
Slips on the nicest pitch in the world.
You're right. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the comedy can't get much better than that. Now, I will say, and this is a question for anyone watching, listening, and to you, Joel, as well. I was terrified when the lineup first came out against Manchester United, particularly with the center back pairing of Mavropanos, who was fantastic on the day. I'll give him that. Who hadn't played a first team game ever in England for one, but since December, so had been essentially out of any sort of meaningful starting lineup for 5 months' time.
Right.
And then Callum Chambers, who can have a great game on his day, but can have a really, really bad game on his day as well. No really in between for a player like him so far since he's been in an Arsenal shirt. I thought played pretty well in addition to Mavropanos. So the question is, you know, with that terrified state that many of us were in at the start of the Man United game and realized maybe, you know, not so bad. Obviously, we lost the game, but considering some of the starting 11 that Arsene Wenger did put out there, it could have been much worse. It did resemble the lineup that we saw so many years ago at 8-2 in August of 2011, which brought on that buying spree of Mertesacker and Arteta, as we all know. Would you, I guess the question for everybody is, would you start those two? Well, I mean, if Koscielny's healthy, I think you throw him in there in place of Chambers and give Mavropanos and Koscielny maybe a go together. But let's say for some reason Mustafi and Koscielny are both unavailable, or, you know, Wenger wants to continue on with what we saw on Sunday. Do we feel comfortable with those two back there in center backs, considering neither of the goals were really their fault on Sunday against Man United? You could question the final header by Fellaini, maybe a little bit better marking, but frankly, the first goal was a giveaway by the midfield and poor recovery from both the outside backs and Xhaka and everybody in general, with the exception of our center backs, who, you know, what are you going to do about it with what happened there? You know, Bellerin a good block and then an open net there at the end for Pogba. But all that said, for two young center backs, one of which who hasn't played a first team game in 5 months, looks to be very promising. I actually have a pretty good you know, set of confidence around the two of them potentially starting on Thursday, because although you could argue that the event in itself away at Atletico is maybe a bigger occasion than the Man United game, I don't know. Away at Man United at Old Trafford is a pretty big occasion. Yeah,
no, it was definitely a big occasion, even with circumstances being what they were. Arsene Wenger going, kind of a lot of goodwill. It was a great showing for all of them, Maitland-Niles and Reiss Nelson included. But yeah, what's your point about the defense? I could see them making a case very soon here. Certainly, you know, in the remaining games throughout the season to get playing time. I don't know about the Atletico game, but
what about like Mavropanos Monreal center back pairing?
I don't
I
know
don't know.
about
I
that.
mean, Monreal's been there a couple times before. I'd have to look up the stats on whether
Yeah, yeah,
it actually worked out for Arsenal in the end. The games that he has started there.
right.
Um, but I
Sometimes,
mean,
sometimes it has. I know we had a stretch where he was there for a while, and it was okay. But um, yeah, I don't know. At least Koscielny, Mustafi might be the odd man out for whoever comes in, whether that's Chambers or somebody else.
yeah,
But yeah, I don't know about so soon. I mean, just I could personally make a case for them maybe meriting a starting position, but whether or not when it comes down to the question, will Arsene Wenger actually do it? I say no. I mean, you imagine if he did it and then Arsenal lost like 3-0 or 2-0 or something. I mean, like, I know there's a lot of goodwill for the guy right now because he's leaving, but that would be maybe maybe like the final parting memory everyone has of Arsene Wenger. Like, oh yeah, always loyal to the youngsters to a fault. Remember Atletico, that second leg. So I can't. That'd be pretty. Let's put it this way: that'd be pretty ballsy if Arsene Wenger did that. But yeah.
But he also did it. I guess I don't see. I won't be shocked if it happens because he also did it against in the last game he's ever going to face Man United as an Arsenal manager. Now, granted, in other circumstances, he doesn't put that lineup out if he doesn't have a semifinal in the Europa League hanging over his head in 3 days' time. So I get that. I understand the scenario that we're looking at there. However, based on the form of the defense in general as of late, sometimes you gotta roll the dice, so to speak, and see what.
Sometimes you got to go with what's hot. Is that what you're saying? You got to go with the foreign players.
Yeah. And the most informed defenders you might have are someone that hasn't played in 5 months and Callum Chambers.
Someone who's never played first team football besides Man U. Okay, so that was the Atletico game. Obviously, Arsenal. We all know what they did there and what they should have done and what they didn't do on closing out that game. It does, we can harp on and on about what that says about the team. I think it is indicative that they did something like this again where they gave away a late goal, but at this point it's like, at least now we can say change is a coming, and hopefully that will be addressed. That kind of weakness at the end of games will be addressed going forward here by the next manager. So Man U, obviously we saw Man U. Yeah, Man U was the next game. I get like these things out of order because we talked about Man U a lot at the beginning, and then Atletico. So Man U, yeah. I mean, you talked a lot about the Man U game and who was good and who was not good in that game. I think the only players I could see starting, though, since we were talking about starters for the Atletico game coming up here on Thursday. The only players I can see starting, I think, would be Xhaka and who else? Well, we saw Ospina.
Well, you saw Kolasinac go off injured, so but he didn't play very well.
He did not play very well. Ospina probably will not start, or that's really that's really interesting one because obviously he could have done better on that second goal, I think. But neither one of Arsenal's goalkeepers have been too solid this season. But in terms of, at this point, it's just like in terms of sheer frame and size, ability to cover the sticks, you'd probably go with Cech again. Obviously, experience too. But neither one of our goalkeepers have been too dependable this season, just in terms of whether or not they let in those soft goals. So that was definitely a mark against Ospina. In the Man U
there was
game.
A positive when you are struggling to defend.
Yeah, right.
Neither of our goalkeepers have been very steady between the sticks.
It's like
and our defense is not very good.
Yeah, no, it's like almost like the even. Was it even Campos or I'm thinking Campo or Campos, the Mexican.
Yeah, Jorge Campos.
Was it Jorge? Why do I say? Oh, even Campos was the defender with the big afro. Forgot who he played for. Anyway, Mexican goalkeeper Jorge Campos, who was like bundle of energy.
Yeah.
5'7", you know, with
Yeah.
lifts on, kind of a thing, and just, you know, it's like, yeah, man, you're athletic, but I can't even begin to calculate how many goals you let in just because you're short.
Because you can't reach it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes you wonder if that's the situation with Ospina. Although, how tall is Ospina? He's like five. I want to give
5'10",
him
probably
5'10".
5'11". Yeah.
That's not that tall.
Maybe 6 foot. Maybe.
No, he's not 6 foot. I can take that. All right, everyone. This is like play the Wheel of Fortune music. Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy music. I don't know. This is some great live broadcast right here. I can't even think right now. What am I looking up? David Ospina.
I'll help you.
He's generously labeled as 6 foot. Everybody, I would be interested.
Yeah, he is.
I would be interested to see what like 2 or 3 other websites said about that on just a quick cross reference.
All right, let's see Jorge Campos here. What 5'7"? Yeah, nailed it.
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, I would be surprised if David Ospina is actually 6 foot. Okay, so we're belaboring the point that David Ospina should not have let in that second goal against Man U. But the real takeaway, the real question is what will be going on Thursday? Probably Petr Cech in goal, I would wager. Xhaka will reprise his role as starter. And then there's 1 or 2 other starters.
Bayern on the right, yeah.
Yeah.
And Aubameyang atop. No, Aubameyang can't play. Dang.
Right. Danny Welbeck it is.
I could see Maitland-Niles playing as well.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
you know, that would be a good. Well, go ahead, say why.
Yeah, I think you expect Ozil and Ramsey to come back in, but you look at Iwobi, he seemed to be cramping up near the end of the game. Didn't play very well. You know, has been struggling for the better part of 3 or 4 months, really, to find any sort of form. And Maitland-Niles was the man of the match, even in a losing cause, the official man of the match between the two sides. So you're talking about a kid full of confidence. You know, team seems to have a spring in his step. Hasn't played a whole lot this season, obviously, at least not at that level. So it should be pretty fresh. If you're looking at anyone that started that game outside the usuals against Man United, that will feature against Atletico as well, I would think it would be him. You know, you put him out wide somewhere, or even in a support striker role potentially, and he runs around and does his thing, and you know, maybe we get lucky, especially with Lacazette and Mkhitaryan and Ozil, and you know, all the creativity that we could potentially have in there. So
yeah, no, it's almost one of those situations, and you know, Atletico is going to are so well drilled. I'm not a defensive football coach, but you would think that a lot of that comes down to tape and how much they study. Obviously, they're very well drilled, you know, in amongst themselves and in relation to one another. But also, you assume a lot of it comes down to tape and how much they study their opponents and prepare for their opponents. And it's almost nice to have a quote unquote like loose cannon, I would say, as Maitland-Niles or somebody like that in there. I mean, I don't think it could hurt, unless you're really concerned about some like defensive covering issues. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him in there either. Obviously, Mkhitaryan is the big question mark. That's the other one I was thinking of, who started against Man U. But I think last we checked, Wenger was still very ambiguous on how his knee was. He just said he had a knock on his knee, and they would looked at it in the dressing room. I don't know what that constitutes. They give it like the old like doctor like mallet thing or what? I don't know. That would probably be a bad idea. So yeah, he's a question mark too, but obviously a big creative force. So yeah, it's just a tough one to predict. Atletico have let in hardly any goals at home this season. I don't know if they're going to be significantly buoyed by the result last Thursday, and they're going to just sit back the whole time and look to, you know, make the most of counters. But they were really actually not that. Again, this is probably their game plan, but they really weren't that threatening on offense at the Emirates. So, you know, it remains to be seen, or it's really anyone's guess what they're going to do at their place, if they're really going to go for it in any way, shape, or form, if they're just going to, you know, sit back and let Arsenal come up on them. in terms of Arsenal's defense, I don't know if it really makes a difference. And whether they go for it or they don't go for it. I feel like sometimes, as sad as it is to say, their defense plays pretty much the same. Whether they're all stuck back behind the ball or they're coming back from a counterattack. So it's I don't know if you have any other thoughts on the Atletico game plan. What Simeone's thinking. Is he banned from this game? When you get sent to the stands, do you get automatic?
It's a good question.
Next one.
He might have to sit in the. He might have to sit in the stands, and the player with the red card will be
that guy we don't
unavailable
know.
As well. Yeah, we're so prepared.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say the final thought, I guess, would be I don't think Arsenal are gonna win the game 1-0. I think it's if they're going to win the game, they're going to have to score more than one goal. Let's put it that way.
Say that again. You broke up very quickly.
Oh, I was going to say if they're going to win the game, they're going to have to score more than one goal. I don't see Atletico, giving up a goal and then just kind of sitting there. And especially if Arsenal were able to nick one early, I could see the game opening up a bit.
Yeah.
And then Atletico potentially getting another one and then allowing Arsenal maybe a little bit more freedom to score a second and a third. And I mean, in that regard, Atletico is going to have to make a decision on how they are going to approach the game from a defense and an offensive standpoint, because it's not like they can just sit back and hope for a 0-0, because I don't think that's going to happen either.
Right.
Arsenal you give them 30 shots, they're bound to convert one, right? So yeah, we will see, but like we've both said already, the defensive record for Atletico is at home this season is quite impressive. Very few goals conceded in all competitions so far this year. So hopefully Arsenal can be the one that breaks the camel's back on in that regard for goals conceded by that defense in Madrid. And should we go on to predictions, Joel?
I was going to say,
since we're on the topic.
I think you went first last time, so I'll do the Atletico.
Okay.
Break the seal on that one. I'm going to say, I'm going to say Arsenal wins 2-1.
Yeah, same here.
Oh, all right. And
it's too easy.
Suspense for before we predict their Burnley game, our predictions from last week were Atletico. You had a 2-1 win for Arsenal. I had a 1-0 win, so I was very close until disaster befell Arsenal. Wait, you had a win or a loss? You had a win, I think.
Yeah, 2-1.
2-1. And then for Man U, you got it correct. You had a 2-1 loss. Perhaps the first correct prediction of a loss this season. And I had a 2-2 draw, so I did not get it in any way, shape, or form right. So, anyway, do you have patron predictions or before we go to Burnley?
No, I don't have them in front of me. Sorry.
All right, so I'll try to rescue this production after that grievous error. Actually, no, it's your turn. You're up for Burnley. What do you think?
Well, I am 5-0 in the presence of Arsenal, so I imagine it'll be 6-0 when I grace the Emirates once again.
That's quite that's probably more pressure than Arsenal were under in the 07-08 season, even, I'd say.
Yeah, I would probably agree. It's going to be 3-1 to the Arsenal.
3-1? I don't think it's going to be 3-1. I don't think they're going to go cushion. It's going to be 2-1 to the Arsenal. How ballsy would it be for me to predict a loss on a game we're actually attending?
Arsene Wenger's last ever game at the Emirates.
I'm just like cheering when we. Not that I ever cheer when Arsenal lose because I got a prediction right. That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be pretty messed up, would it not?
It would be messed up.
Yeah.
But I think to everyone out there, this is pretty crazy. Joel and I have yet to really wrap our minds around the fact that we booked these trips. I'm going over for work, so this is the weekend before. Joel's also going to be doing some other traveling after this particular weekend, but we're like, hey, let's hasn't really worked out yet this season. Let's just do the Burnley match. It's the last home game.
What
it's
the heck?
Yeah, it's going to work out perfect with, our schedules and everything. And then literally like 3 or 4 days later, Wenger makes the announcement here that he's resigning, and this will be his last home. And then we realized, wow, this is going to be his last ever game as Arsenal home game as Arsenal manager at the Emirates, or at any stadium for that matter,
right?
That Arsenal are the
home game,
the tenant of. And so there you have it. So yeah, we will be. I don't know what we're going to do for the next podcast. Maybe we'll do a live show like Sunday after the match or something.
Yeah, we can probably do a quick one.
But we'll be trying to, interview folks and talk to as many people as possible, and be giving some stuff, little decals and different things away to people we meet. So come say hello. We'll be in and around the Emirates pretty much all day Sunday, probably before and after the Burnley match. So look forward to seeing some of you over there potentially. And I guess at some point we'll get out a post Atletico and Burnley podcast.
Yeah,
probably
probably a live show.
Yeah,
that'd be more doable. But yeah, I don't know if we'll have the Arsenal TV fan TV set up. Maybe you'll spot us around there. If you don't, or if you do and you don't want to say hi, that's also fine. Yeah, I like to have a low key attendance at these games typically. I used to be I think way back when I would say, maybe I'm interested to see hear what other like American Gooners, what approach they have to attending Arsenal matches and how that's changed over the years. But like back in the day, I'd always like have like the huge camera, like trying to like take pictures and stuff, the longest lens, really close up with players. And now it's just like, gosh, guys, just don't lose.
Well, it'd be a different occasion this time around.
Yeah, right. It would be.
Arsene Wenger wasn't about to sign a new 3-year contract,
right?
Like he was the other, however many times we've been. So,
no, it'll be interesting. All that to say, I think that's I mean, those are probably our final words to everybody before we go over for that game. And it is that's crazy. It's the last home game. It's really gotten away from us. How few games there are left, because after that we've got, let's see here, Leicester on a Wednesday. Is that right?
Midweek, yep. And then the final match day of the season next Sunday. Sunday, yep.
Yeah. Crazy. It is almost May. So there is that, but we'll definitely get in touch with you, regular podcast form on the other side of those games. Any final words, Kyle, before we, start packing our bags here?
No, I mean, we'll have a couple more shows to wrap up this season, but I think we've said it before, the last couple of months we're all busy, but we appreciate people continuing to
people.
People. Yeah. Well, maybe some animals. I don't know. Maybe they listen with their owners. Who knows?
Yeah.
But most humans, all you humans out there, we appreciate the patronage and the support as always. And I think we're going to make some changes on how we present this show and the content over the summer and everything. But we'll keep everyone posted and hopefully try to get everyone a little bit more involved. Not necessarily Arsenal Fan TV style than the ranting and raving, but the storytelling and sharing more so. In that regard. So
look forward to that. It's probably the second, maybe the first biggest change, Arsenal related change over the summer that you'll have to pay attention to.
I mean, there will be nothing else going on, so you obviously want to pay attention to this show.
World Cup, new Arsenal manager. No, keep your eyes peeled to the website that will not be updated for 2 months. Maybe more often than that, not to discredit our contributors.
Well, it's updated every week, but
All right. Okay. So that's that. Sipping some mysterious alcoholic beverage from his rock.
My ice in the mic.
Yeah. So I think that's our cue to wrap this up. Yeah, a bit of a weird week for Arsenal. A very anticlimactic draw against Atletico, and then a kind of anticlimactic
loss.
Not too anticlimactic though. I would say kind of something you expected or maybe anticipated when you saw that team sheet against Man U. But nonetheless, two more two more results that we've gotten through here with just a handful of games left at the end of the season. A big one, though, like a real big one, coming up here on Thursday against Atletico at their place. So we'll get in touch with you on the other side of that and the Burnley games in some form. One way or another, we'll get in touch with you on the other side of those podcast or other side of those games on the next podcast / live show. So until then, as always, remember, support the Arsenal and have a good week.